Welcome to the EOB Podcast, where we talk about the weekend box office and the new openings this week. I'm Ben No, and unfortunately, Sin won't be joining us this week. Welcome to the podcast, everyone. It's a cloudy Tuesday afternoon, April 18th right now. We're doing this on a Tuesday, or I'm doing this on a Tuesday because I wasn't able to do it on a Monday because of scheduling and appointments or what have you. So let's get in at the box office. Last week we have just one wide release, and that is Fast 8, or the 8th movie in the Fast and Furious franchise, called The Fate of the Furious, where Vin Diesel's character turned heel. He is forced to join the bad guy played by Charlize Theron. And there's this thing about her using, through the internet or whatever, connecting with all these self-driving cars and wreaking havoc with the world, and action ensues. And this is the 8th movie. Let's see how this movie did over the weekend. Let's jump right in. Coming in number 1 is The Fate of the Furious, the 8th movie in the Fast and Furious franchise, as expected. But what wasn't expected was this box office take. It only took in $98.7 million over the weekend. Both Sin and I said this movie could probably do or open in the 120 million range, and that's because Fast 7 had a 147 million opening, but that movie has an extenuating circumstance which caused it huge publicity, and that is the death of Paul Walker, one of the film's stars. And that movie opened to 147 million and went on to make 1.5 billion worldwide, and we said, that might be the peak. Fast 7 might be the peak of the Fast and Furious franchise. It could not go on forever, right? But we didn't know how big of an effect Paul Walker's death had on that movie. Is it 20 million effect? Or is it more? Is it less? We don't know, right? But now for the 8th film, Fast 8, The Fate of the Furious, the movie only took in 98.7 million, which is roughly about where Fast 6 opened to. The 6th movie had a 97 million opening. So you could say from Fast 6, and the outlier is Fast 7, we knew that because of Paul Walker's death. And now Fast 8, we see that it's kind of like plateauing at the 100 million mark, right? 98 million. Fast 6 had a 97 million opening. So it is right there, plateauing at that point, right? And there's Fast 9 coming out as well. We don't know what will happen. I mean, there's obviously still a lot of money to be made from this franchise, so they're going to continue to milk it. But we're not going to see this huge jump anymore unless another event that causes the movie to have some notoriety among the general public, right? So 98.7 million is really pretty good. We thought that this franchise cannot go up forever. I mean, the opening weekend. So 98 million, like I say, it's pretty good. Let's see, worldwide right now is at 531. So even though it's doing okay compared to Fast 7, it's still pretty good, right? But okay compared to the previous movie. Worldwide, overseas, it grossed 433 million, which is amazing. And in China, it already did 193 million. So big in China, big in South Korea with 10 million opening. It's a big action movie, which travels well, as we can see from the previous movie in this franchise. So it's a big international movie. It's big here, 98 million. 98 million is huge, but the budget is 250, so it's doing all right, right? 250 million. It could open better here domestic, but it's getting huge box office overseas, and it will depends on how well the movie holds up. And judging from the reviews, pretty good, 73%, which is one of the better reviewed movies in the franchise. Fast 5 had a 77% tomato meter. Fast 6 had a 69% tomato meter. Fast 7 had a 79, and Fast 8 had a 73. So which is kind of in line with the rest of the franchise. We just ignore the earlier movies; those weren't well reviewed at all. But hey, it grew the franchise. It endeared these characters to the audience, the people, the movie going public. And we said in the preview in the last podcast that, at some point you need to ratchet up the action and everyone will, become superheroes. Since they became superheroes in the last movie, Fast 7, where, when Diesel could just walk out of a crumbling building, trapped inside a car, and just like kick off the door and dust himself off and he'll be okay. You can only take that so much, right? But they just keep on ratcheting it up the absurdness. And I say that, at some point, people are gonna say, it's getting too ridiculous. We'll have to see. We don't know if we'll see a fast decline for this movie, or hey, it's gonna keep up this level. We don't know. It depends on how they handle the situation, right? I mean, it's already in its 8th movie, and it's kind of tough to keep these movies together. There's Fast 9 coming along. We'll see how this movie holds up, right? And I said it could experience a slow decline or it could keep the movie at this level, and it just depends on how they handle it, right? Okay, let's move along to number 2, which is The Boss Baby. The Boss Baby was the number 1 movie for 2 weekends in a row, and out came The Fate of the Furious, and The Boss Baby got reaccommodated, to use the airline term, to the second spot, with a take of 16 million over the weekend. The drop-off is still kind of low, 40% roughly. Domestic gross is 116 million, and the international worldwide gross is 288. So it's doing well for DreamWorks. This is a DreamWorks movie, and it's probably gonna end its run in the 150 or so range, maybe. DreamWorks, while their movies might not reach the level of the Pixar's right now, I mean, I'm talking about domestic grosses, right? It's still doing pretty well in theaters. The animation studio has its fans, and The Boss Baby is the latest one. It's doing decently well. Okay, moving along to number 3 is Beauty and the Beast. It pulled in 13.7 million in its 5th weekend. Domestic gross right now is 454 worldwide. It crossed 1 billion. And as we said, Beauty and the Beast is probably gonna make over 500 million domestic, or very close to it. It still has a couple ways to go, right? It's now only in its 5th weekend, and it's still number 3, with 13.7 million. So hey. Alright, moving along to number 4 is The Smurfs. It pulled in about 6.7 million, experienced nearly 50% drop off in its 2nd weekend. Domestic gross is 24 million. Worldwide right now is at 95 million. The movie only cost 60 million to make, and let's see, it had a 13 million opening, which is not as good as I expect this movie to perform, because the first 2 movies did okay. The first one did really well. The second movie kind of experienced a drop off of half of his domestic, of his box office take, and this one kind of continues where the third movie left off. Kind of middling, 13 million opening, and it's gonna end up somewhere in the 40 million range, or 45. So it's not the success I thought it would. I thought it could do better, because this movie kicked out the humans and concentrate on just pure animation. But I guess it's just that the brand is not as strong with the moviegoers now, so maybe that's why it's not performing as well as I thought or hope it could do. Miss right there for Sony, and I'm not sure if they're gonna continue on with more Smurfs movies. But with 60 million and a box office take of 95 million, I think they're still gonna make more Smurfs, because it is a valuable and recognizable IP. But it just can they elevate it to something bigger? That is still the question. And judging by Sony's track record with properties, kind of like their handling of the Spider-Man franchise, it doesn't look good. But we'll see if they could get the people, the right people involved for this franchise. And number 5 is Going in Style. It is the kind of like action comedy starring Morgan Freeman, Michael Caine, Alan Arkin, about 3 old guys who decided to take up a life of crime. They've been law-abiding citizens all their lives, but circumstances, have them trying to rob a bank because their paychecks, their pensions are getting cut or discontinued, and they need money. That's when they decided, hey, other people are like criminals or, having it good, and they decide to kind of like pull a Robin Hood, kind of rob from the bank or whatever they decided to target to get even. Whoever's taking their money from them, they're going to rob them and get what's owed them, what's theirs in the first place. And I guess comedy ensues or not. And not. The Going in Style had only an 11 million opening of roughly 12 million, right? But that's probably due to the star power, Morgan Freeman, Michael Caine, Alan Arkin, and it's kind of like maybe their final movie together. Who knows, right? These guys are getting up there in age, and this is a movie where all these guys, great actors, could have fun together in a movie. And this is it, and it's not as successful as they hoped, but the budget's only 25 million. One of these things for people who are familiar with this character, as I said, for cynics who are into these kind of movies where they get psyched up seeing these 3 great actors in a movie together. So we don't know how long they're gonna have left, and hopefully they really went out with style, and maybe this is not their final movie together. Number 6, Gifted. pulled in 3 million over the weekend. It's a limited movie that expanded, got an additional 1,000 theaters. Let's see, what's this movie about? It's released by Fox Searchlight Pictures, directed by Mark Webb, the guy who did the earlier Spider-Man movies like Amazing Spider-Man, Amazing Spider-Man 2. He made his debut with 500 Days of Summer. Right, this movie stars Chris Evans, Jenny Slate, Octavia Spencer, who seems to be in everything these days. And why not, right? She adds flavor to any movie. Let's see what this movie is about. Let me do a quick search, because this is not in my radar. Gifted. Okay, I guess it stars Chris Evans as Frank, a single man raising his child prodigy niece, Mary, and drawn in a custody battle with his mother. Okay, so it's one of these family films about fighting, who gets the child, and into the meaning of, I guess, fatherhood or responsibility, etc. One of these minor films that seem to find resonance with theater goers. Pulled in 3 million, as I said. The second weekend right now, it was released limited last weekend, and it kind of went wide this weekend with an additional 1,000 theaters, and so far domestic gross is only about 4.5 million. So there you go. It's probably one of these small movies that's made for really cheap and for actors to stretch the range a bit, right? Chris Evans, he's known as Captain America in the Marvel movies, and it's something for him to take a break from these big action blockbusters. And Gifted is it. All right, and number 7 is Get Out. It continues to do well, hanging in theaters, right? The drop-off is only 26% from its previous weekend. It grossed nearly 3 million over the weekend. It's already in its 8th week. Domestic gross is 167, and worldwide it is 183, and 16 million of that is overseas. And as we said, this movie is social commentary, and it is a movie that will do better over here, and it probably won't translate as well overseas, and we're seeing this in the box office right now. It's not one of these movies that travels well, because it is about this culture, and as the director said, Jordan Peele said, it is social horror, and it's more relevant here than overseas, and that's why it's gonna be a small movie overseas. But still, domestic take 167 million. A lot of big movies would kill for that kind of figure, but overseas it's doing okay business, but not that well. 60 million is yeah. But again, the budget is only 4.5 million, so amazing return. And Jordan Peele proves that he could do more than comedy, right? He's known as one of the pair of the Key and Peele comedy show on cable, and right now he's branching out into movies. And I think I'm not sure if this is his second movie or not. No, he did this. He starred in one of these comedies. Right, but now he wrote and directed this one, and this movie will open a lot of doors for him later on. Either if he continues to do more movies, or if he continues to do more TV shows on cable or whatever. Right, this movie opened a lot of eyes, and they're gonna throw money at him to create stuff. A lot of companies, or I'm not sure, but if I'm hit the studio honcho, I would ask him to make movies for me. So yeah, there we go. Alright, number 8, moving along, is Power Rangers. It pulled in 2.8 million. Drop off is 54%. This is its 4th weekend. Domestic gross is 80 million. The movie is budgeted at 100 million. Worldwide is only it only pulled in 128 million. That's worldwide, but it hasn't opened in China or in Japan yet. So we will see how this movie will do overseas, because as it stands, it's losing money in theaters. They could make that up with a home video. The budget's 100 million. As we said, you need to at least gross 2 times the budget worldwide to at least break even, generally, right? But it's not that. It needs to make 200 million worldwide to break even, and it's not doing that so far. And it looks like it's dropping out of theaters here, domestic market, and it doesn't look like it's picking up overseas. So we thought it did okay, right? It had a huge opening. It opened to 40 million, but turns out that this movie is front-loaded and it doesn't have staying power. But we'll see how it does overseas. It looks like this movie will probably top off, I don't know, it could reach 100 million here domestic. If the studio Lionsgate just let it linger in theaters, it could pull out 100 million here. But we don't know how well it will do overseas. Right now, it's not looking good, since it's only 47 million overseas. But we'll see. Like I said, China, Japan, and South Korea will maybe make a case for this movie for another sequel. All right, number 9 is The Case for Christ. It pulled in 2.7 million. It opened last weekend. This is a faith-based movie about a reporter whose wife is ailing, and I guess it has a crisis of conscience, I guess, of faith. And he's going out to prove that Christ or Jesus is real or not or whatever, trying to find proof for the existence of Christ. This movie or these movies, faith-based movies, are all kind of preaching to the choir. Is advertised as made by the same people who are responsible for God is Not Dead, the God is Not Dead movies. And it's proving that this is not as well received as that other movie, right? But they try to make the case for that, hey, it's similar. But again, right, how many movies can they support where they find that Jesus is real or God is real? And I guess it did okay-ish. This movie looks expensive, for what it is, because it is kind of like has this dated look, right? They're trying to make it look like the 70s or 80s with the look, and that costs money, right? Real sets, costumes, cars, for example. But hey, it's not doing as well in theaters domestically. All right, let's round out the top 10 with Kong Skull Island. It pulled in 2.7 million over the weekend, experienced a 51% drop off in the 6th week already. Let's see, domestic growth so far is 161. Worldwide is 552 million. So hey, it's doing pretty well overseas. And as we mentioned, we're looking forward the sequel. Will feature King Kong and Godzilla battling it out, but we'll see how they're gonna handle that. Is that gonna be like the Batman versus Superman kind of fake fight, or is it going to be a real fight? We'll have to pay money to find out, or not. And a movie of note is Ghost in the Shell, live action movie adaptation of the anime. It pulled in 2.5 million in its 3rd weekend. Yeesh. Yeah, I think we can call it a bomb now, right? A 66% drop off, 2.4 million in its 3rd weekend. Not going well at all. The domestic gross right now is 37 million. The budget is 110 worldwide. Let's see what's doing worldwide. Worldwide it's doing better. Overseas is doing better, I have to add. Overseas it has 116 million gross for a worldwide take of 153 million, but budget is 110. And as we said, you need to make at least 2 times your production budget to at least break even. Even in China, it seems like it's slowing down, but we have to get an updated figures on that. I'm not sure how updated the China figure is, but China, as the latest figure right now, is 28 million according to Box Office Mojo. And as Sen said, movies in China are pretty front loaded, and if you don't have a huge opening weekend, you can probably write that country off. And I guess we can say this is Ghost in the Shell is certified bomb right now, at least in theaters. Okay, so that's it for the box office. Let's move on to the new releases this weekend. It's kind of weird this week, a weird week for the new release, because we have all these kind of smaller movies, right? We have Fate of the Furious the previous week, the big blockbusters which have potentials to gross to open in the 100 million range, but this weekend we don't have that. I guess it's just to avoid some of the bigger movies like Fate of the Furious. We have 4 or 5 kind of wide-ish releases, kind of getting crowded there, right? But of course, with movies like Ghost in the Shells kind of moving its way out there, I guess they're gonna make room for these movies. Let's see, we have the movie Unforgettable. That movie is a erotic thriller, sort of, directed by Denise Denovi, who's better known as a producer, but she is making her directorial movie debut with Unforgettable. She's kind of moving more behind the camera. Instead of producing movies, she's gonna actually get hands-on with this thriller. This movie stars Katherine Heigl, Rosario Dawson. Heigl stars as an ex-wife, according to the synopsis, who's out to make life a living hell for her ex-husband and his new wife, who is played by Dawson. And this is one of these thrillers which Haigo just sticks around, shows up at uninvited, and create false stories or trying to break them apart. If you watch the trailer, there it goes. These movies you would think that it would star Ashley Judd or Jennifer Lopez, Attell, right? These B movie erotic thrillers, and I guess Unforgettable is in the kind of same vein. I mean, it stars better people than this movie calls for, right? I think Denise Denovi called in a few favors to be able to grab Haigo and Dawson. This movie is kind of similar to When the Bow Breaks, kind of similar, like a love triangle. One of the characters will do anything to like ingrain themselves into the lives of a couple, and that movie stars Morris Chestnut and Regina Hall. That movie had a 14 million opening, and this movie, like I said, stars more well-known actors, I guess. Not more well-known, but similar level actors. But I don't think it's gonna do as well unless Dawson bring out her fans. But the theaters are crowded this weekend, and this thriller generally could open in the 10 to 15 million range. But this crowd, I'm gonna say, is probably gonna open in the 10 million range, surely, because hey, it seems like a generic thriller, even though it stars Haigo and Dawson. I don't see it breaking through the competition. So 10 million. All right, let's move on to the another wide release, and that is The Promise. Like Allied, that Brad Pitt movie and Marion Cotillard last year. It's kind of like that movie. The Ottoman Empire is falling apart. Christian Bale's in this movie. He stars as an AP reporter who's reporting news. His girlfriend, played by Charlotte Le Bon, who plays Anna. Oscar Isaac plays an aspiring doctor, a student. Who's studying to become a doctor, and war happens, and they try to get out of the country, and they get separated. There is a love triangle between Bale's character, Isaac's character, and Le Bon. Jean Reno is in this movie for some reason, but hey, it's a paycheck. Why not? These characters, I don't think will bring in the crowd. Christian Bale, he's not gonna bring in the crowd outside of the Batman movie. Allied with Brad Pitt only opened in 12 million range, and I don't see this movie doing that well either. I don't think this movie could surpass The Ally, is what I'm saying. Right now, it has a 37% at Rotten Tomatoes, so it's not well reviewed. The budget is high, reportedly 100 million, based on true events. But again, this movie, I don't think it's gonna bring out the crowd here, at least here, right? I think probably gonna do somewhere in the 5 to 7 million range, because I don't see what separates this movie from Allied, and these actors, like I said, are not known to bring out crowds. Oscar Isaac, Christian Bale, he's a name, but he's no longer Batman. Let's see, moving along to the other new release is Phoenix Forgotten. I think it's pretty much Blair Witch for UFOs. It's a found footage movies about UFOs, what happened, I think, back when, and they're saying there's a government cover-up. If this movie came kind of around the same time, or maybe before Blair Witch, I could see it doing okay, but now the cat's out of the bag. These found footage thriller, unless they have a big popular conceit, unless they have a better story supporting it, instead of, okay, this is real and this is the footage of what happened in real life, I don't think you can pull that over the eyes of people anymore. You can use it as a technique, like some of the other movies, like found footage, but if you're trying to make this movie real, as like real events, then it's gonna fail. It's gonna fall flat on its face, and I think this movie will get ignored in theaters. I'm probably gonna have a 1 million opening. All right, and then the other one, Free Fire. It's an action comedy. The movie stars Sharlto Copley, Armie Hammer, Brie Larson, Cillian Murphy. It's a movie kind of like Reservoir Dogs without Tarantino. It's about a couple gang members who's out to buy guns from these distributor, I guess. And Lawson plays a go-between between the gang members and the weapon dealers, and somehow they ended up shooting at each other, and a standoff ensues. I watched the trailer and it looks like a mess to me and not that funny, but I guess there's some people might enjoy it, but not with this group. Not with this group. I don't see this movie as funny, and like I say, it's a movie a mess. It might sound funny on paper, but what I seen in the trailers doesn't say this movie is funny, or at least I want to experience the same thing over its running time. So movie could probably have an opening of 7 to 8 million. Alright, finally, we get to our final wide release this weekend. Born in China, it is a documentary about panda or pandas. It's by Disney documentary, right? They make 2015's Monkey Kingdom. They have a couple other documentaries, and these documentaries usually open in the 5 to 10 million range. Pandas are cute, so are monkeys, so are other animals. But like I said, crowded theaters, and there are other family films in theaters, like The Boss Baby, Beauty and the Beast, etc. So I think it's gonna open typical Disney doc opening. I don't think this is gonna appeal to the family audience per se. I think it's gonna appeal to people who are older, who are into more to watch documentaries. So it's gonna have a 5 million opening, I think, in line with other Disney docs. So there you go. All right. So that's this week's podcast. Hopefully next week we can get together with Sin again and we can talk some more about the box office. Thanks for listening. Bye bye.